Hello, Lottie. I want to talk to you about an area that I know you've got loads of experience in. We've talked about it probably a year ago or even 2 years ago, and that is individuals with the Down syndrome diagnosis. March shows us that it's Down syndrome awareness day, and sadly, it's a population group that just aren't understood enough. So tell me more.
Yeah, so with my children's physio background, I've worked with children, particularly with Down syndrome, for 15 years. And again, from the physical side of it, I've always been working on this sort of possible hypermobility, get strength going, crawling, making sure all their developmental milestones are hit.
Yeah.
And then again, with my nutrition, which I've then brought together with my physio, I'm going there must be more to it. Like, what's going on with these kiddos? Is there anything else we can support? And I'm obviously talking about children just because I've worked as children's physio. I've got specialist interest in children's health from a nutrition perspective, but I'm talking anybody who's got Down syndrome who would like some support. And the reason it's so dear to my heart is it's really important for us to make sure that those with Down syndrome have got voices around them which are saying, are you okay? How are you feeling? Is there anything we can do? Because even when we go back not very many years, the average age that a child could live to with Down syndrome is 9, because we didn't understand their bodies well enough. Whereas now we're celebrating your 60th birthday because we're understanding bodies more and what they need to support them. So it's really well known that those with Down syndrome have more need for certain things like antioxidants. They've got a higher ability to have high oxidative stress, which we can measure on some of these tests. And we're saying we can support that though. And they're more likely to have things like thyroid disorders. And if we're aware of that, we're going, how can we support your thyroid before it even becomes a problem?
So, whilst we've known about, for example, increased risk of hyperthyroidism in youngsters with Down syndrome, and that is something pediatricians do often, not always, but often test for. We know that individuals with Down syndrome might have an increased cardiovascular pattern, like problems from a cardiovascular point of view. But we're now learning that, yes, for example, more individuals with Down syndrome are at higher incidences of leukemias, or great that they're living longer life, but are we seeing more cancers? So what, from that point of view, thinking about long-term health, because at the end of the day, if an individual has hyperthyroidism, whether they've got Down syndrome or not Down syndrome, they're treated with the drug levothyroxine. From a nutritional point of view, tell me more what you want to look at that maybe a pediatrician isn't able to look for because it's outside of their scope of practice.
So again, when we've done tests on genetics, for example, looking at the genomic instabilities around certain individuals, particularly with Down syndrome, we can see that methylation falls under that category of a lot of people struggle with methylation. And that's like this lock and key mechanism which activates certain nutrients so the body can then flourish. And if you struggle with methylation, you're going to end up struggling getting nutrients into you. So if we then go, but I'm aware of that, I'm going to support your methylation, then that's a whole enormous area of a body and how it works, how we create energy, how we clean up cells. That's going to be supportive. So again, things like detoxification, we're seeing a lot that there are increased toxins that are flying around our environment, and that there are certain genomic panel patterns that we see with people with Down syndrome where they struggle to detoxify, or they don't make enough glutathione, our body's major antioxidant. So what we're seeing instead, when I do all these tests on these, whether they're children or adults, but the oxidative stress is higher. Oxidative stress is where your cells then become inflamed, irritated. And again, it's a pretty good detector, or it's a pretty good way of marking how stressed your body is, and if that could then go into an area of disease process. So if we can backtrack.
Actually, if you can test genomics from a very young age, so we've got maybe listeners out there that have a child that's been born within the last 6 months, 12 months, 2 years, you're saying test their genomics to look at their potential versus just waiting until there's a problem later on.
Yes, and that is what's happening.
Toxic or light, they've got oxidative stress or light, because the more years they're on the planet, the more likely those problems are going to show, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. And there's lots of other random things that can happen, like they struggle to break down histamine potentially. So again, can we work with the gut, how you break down histamine, so then that doesn't rise in your system? And if we go, are you creating a place in your gut? Where were you a C-section baby? Has that created a dysbiotic nature in the gut? So then you have more bad bacteria than good. Have you got the potential for a leaky gut? Have you got a lower level of good bacteria, which again is that stuff that supports the immune system? So one of the statistics says that, again, individuals with Down syndrome are more likely to get ill, but also can die of things like lung complications, respiratory issues, because they're mucousy, because they can't fight the infection. And again, a lot of my kiddos on the caseload, from a nutrition perspective, I'm working on their immune system, because every time they get sick, they get really sick, they might end up in hospital, they might end up on oxygen, they might need help with their breathing. And if I can say, actually, I can work with you and your gut, and the good bacteria in the immune system that comes from, that 70% of our immune system comes from our gut bacteria, get that gut bacteria into a good place, support the immune system, you're less likely to end up getting, again, respiratory difficulties that then you get put on antibiotics and get, the secondary implications of antibiotics, which are, again, it's a knock-on impact on your gut microbiome.
Amazing, amazing. So to all of our listeners, friends, families that have individuals that have youngsters or older children now, because like you said, they are living for many, many years beyond what their old life expectancy was, which is amazing. What's the take home? Come and test and look at genomics. What else?
So I would say, if you're just talking about nutrition, again, we're trying to get in that huge variety of colourful fruits and vegetables, herbs and salads, because that's your antioxidants that you're trying to boost up to support the oxidative stress. And I would say, make sure you're looking at their gut, because again, if they need support to say, actually, my tummy doesn't feel right, or my poos aren't right, is this right? Is that not right? If you're talking to people about all of this and it's making it completely normal conversation, you can then get an indication into their health from what's coming out of them, and then be their advocate and step up and say, actually, there's things we can do to support your health. That's my most important feeling, is they might need support to know what's normal and what's not normal, and what's okay and what's not okay in their bodies and in their health and how it's feeling.
Brilliant, brilliant. There's so much messages in that for individuals to know that there's hope to give their children a much more focus on wellness rather than just focusing on illness.
Waiting for ill health. Yeah. And that's what I hate, is like, let's wait until there's a problem. No, let's not wait. Let's not wait. Let's do something beforehand.
Yeah, perfect. Well, thank you so much. And if you're not one of our listeners, you've not got an individual with Down syndrome, but you know of somebody, please do share, because it is a population group that really is looking for messages, and there's so little of it out there. The more we share, the more we're going to bring knowledge to help these individuals. Thank you so much for your information, Lotte. Thank you so much for taking your time, and thank you to all of our listeners. Take care for now. Bye-bye.